All right. So good evening, everyone. I'm going to, we'll get started on time, but I'm just going ahead and getting us live on, make sure we're live on Facebook, and then I'll do the introductions and everything uh, right at 7. Public. Okay. Seconds here. I think I'm almost done here. All right. Okay, so I'm so excited. I'm not even gonna do any introductions yet. I'll be getting all excited. I'll be ready to go.
Ready to talk. I know.
How's your day going?
My day is going amazing. Amazing. I have to tell y'all the updates too.
Oh yes, yes, you definitely do. You know, I'm gonna do. I am. I typically share with people how I actually get connected with the people I talk to, or how we are connected.
I remember how we got connected.
Yeah, I'll be sure to remind you. And it's amazing because this actually is, I think it's very timely for this period in this generation for me to call out how we got connected and how the Lord orchestrated all that, because people need to know. But that'll be another topic that we talk about on another on future endeavors, right? That we just
That's right. That's right. Let's put a pin in that and we'll put that on the board.
Yes. Well, good evening, everyone. It's 7:00. I like to be mindful of everyone's time. I'm so excited about today's intentional conversation. Look, my hands are alike. I'm so excited because I have my sister Camellia here, and I just want to. We'll get into introductions about everything and what we'll talk about, and just the flow of our conversation. But of course, everything's unscripted, and it's just an organic conversation that we're having about topics in an intentional manner, so that we are very much covering the different nuances that are connected to our topic. So our topic today is daddy-daughter connections, and it's titled A Bond Beyond Words, because there are certain things in relationships that may not be expressed all the time, things that impact us, especially as it relates to how we're connected to our fathers. And so we thought that was a fitting title. So I always share a disclaimer up front, which is that we are professionals in our spaces that we operate in, but and then the insight we share during the conversations, we want to make sure that we are sharing it from a experience perspective, sharing best practices, lessons learned. We're not claiming to be any kind of certified doctors or therapists, but this is how we do life together. We learn from one another, and if we're attentive, then it really helps us to stay connected and grow with each other. And so as we move forward, please definitely chime in on the comment section. If you're on YouTube, let us know you're out there. You're on Facebook, let us know you're out there in the comment section. If we share something that you want us to elaborate on, please make sure you put that in there. If you have questions, if you just want to give it amen in the amen choir section of the comment.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Yeah, please feel free to do so. All right, so Camellia, Miss Camellia Varnado. Oh my God, what's up, Almond Glaze? That's she's on YouTube. I don't know her, but we need to meet. Okay. I love it. Okay. So let me just tell you about Camellia before I get into what we're going to talk about. I told you the topics, the title, but the agenda. Um, so you guys need to know how we met before she gives her own highlight and we get into everything. So how we met was through her husband. I worked with her husband at the firm that I've been at for some time now, and he was a senior trainer, and so I was always paying attention to how he moved and operated, and he would give me advice and things of that nature. And then we would go get food periodically, and we went to Chipotle one day, and I was getting my bowl or maybe a burrito, and he looked at me with the side eye. I was like, Shay, you really about to put all that? You about to put all that on your set or your bowl? I said, yeah. He's like, if you don't remind me of my wife. And so we started laughing, whatever. And of course, we are both opinionated, direct, and loud. Our laugh is like no other. And so I
right. It's contagious.
Yeah, I started laughing. It was loud. He was like, "And you loud? Where's your inside voice?" So he was like, I'm definitely gonna have to introduce you two. You guys are two peas in the pod," and he did just that.
Yeah,
he did just that, and I think you guys were pregnant at the time, right, with Charity, and I came over and I think I helped with your baby shower, or something, right?
Yeah, with the baby shower, because remember Charity was still in the hot. She was in the NICU.
She was in NICU, yes, because we did March of Dimes through the company.
You did our shirts.
Yep. And so and we've been connected. How old is Charity now?
Charity 15.
15. So that long, just because he was like, oh my gosh, you need to meet my wife. And we were like, we kicked him to the curb. We started going on our walks. Yeah. and the reason why that was so, we definitely have kindred spirits. We're definitely I don't know, we have just a special bond. And you early on, when we would go work out at 24-Hour Fitness, we would talk about different parts of my story. I think it was before my mom had passed. Mm-hmm. And you had shared, Shay, you should write a book, and you'll know in just a little bit that she's the author of several books. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's exactly how you said it too. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
Good recommendation, but let's just go ahead and move on.
All right, girl. All right.
Yeah, all right. Next part of the story. Anyway, chapter 15. No, just and so I share that to say, just remind people that there is sometimes a perception that men and women can't be platonic friends. Mm-hmm. If Severn and I couldn't be friends, then I wouldn't have had the bond that I have with Camellia today. Right. It is important that women understand and men understand that when you are able to stand right within who you are, mm-hmm. you can value and appreciate the relationships that people have, then you create your own boundaries, mm-hmm. right? It's not, there was never any, I can't go to lunch with him or he couldn't go. It was like, I knew who Severn was. I knew, and he knew who I was. And I was like, so excited about the joy and his love for his family. That was important. That was inspirational. That was important. And so I think that it's important that we call that out, because mm-hmm. there's something sometimes special in that God wants to do, but we have all these different barriers. We have all this different mess. And then sometimes we're even a mess. We don't, well, we're most of the time a mess, but, but we don't even, when God puts something there, what if I would have been like, oh no, I'm okay. I don't want to meet your wife. But,
I'm good.
Like you just, but I can't even imagine not having you guys on our 10-year anniversary cruise and our just connection all through the years. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you and that God decided to use Severn. So tell him good job, brother, for being available.
I'm telling you, it has been an amazing journey watching you and Cooley. I mean, y'all are inspiration, to us as well, because y'all been married 20-some years,
Yeah.
So you're definitely an inspiration. And girl, I mean, kindred spirits is right. I mean, we can get together and start giggling and talking about the Lord, encouraging one another.
Yes.
I mean, meeting us right, and we don't have to talk every day. It's like when we do connect, it's like, girl, let me tell you.
Right. It'd be like a year. And we'd be like, okay, so anyway, like we were saying.
Exactly. It's that. But that's the sisterhood. That's the sisterhood, the sister love that we should all have the great opportunity of having in our lives. Because I think as you get older, you need it. Because sometimes you need another voice in the room, right?
Yeah, and you need another voice to chime into. So we'll get into this, but I'll tell you this. I just called Camellia last week and was like, let's talk about this perimenopause. And so specifically what you got going on, and then what's going on with your sister and the family, and how they dealing with it. I was all right.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So it was, and we'll share other information about Camellia. We'll put it in the chat. That's Camellia on IG. And she has a podcast. I think the last 5 episodes you have talked about perimenopause, menopause, and she's had Black women experts on there that provide us with insight about what we should be taking, what will help us, and how to connect with them, and then different stories. So y'all should check that out. I know this conversation is not about that, but y'all should check this out. And I'm gonna remind you at the end as well. So, so daddy-daughter connection. So I will be going over the topics that I published, which is we'll start with Camellia sharing her personal life story, some highlights from that, just to give us perspective about who she is, where she comes from, and then we'll segue into the dynamics of the relationship she had with her father from youth, how it started, and then how it ended, or how it went from there. And then we'll talk about, I think probably just naturally intermingled in there, some of the relationship restoration elements, the challenges, right? The peaks and the valleys, some of the forgiveness, some of the maybe discomfort and trying to really heal and grow. And then go into, we'll have just a mutual conversation about how relationships with our father impact our interactions with men. Both on a platonic level and a romantic level. And if you have anything that you want to chime in or you want us to express or explore, put that in. And then we'll end with like some lessons learned or encouragement elements to go out to any of the fathers out there or daughters who desire to restore the relationship, but they just don't know where to start. And so, so that's kind of the flow. Those are the topics that we hope to talk about. Again, disclaimer, we're both extroverts. If you don't know, extroverts have 10 different conversation at one time.
That is so good.
And if you're the opposite, which is an introvert, you're like, wait a minute, did they even finish the first sentence?
So my husband calls that a squirrel. So there you do a squirrel. You just
we be having all kind of squirrel moments. So just roll with us, but we'll do our best to stick to the topics that we have here. But we'll let the Lord have His way.
Yeah. Have your way.
Right.
Have your way.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay, Camellia, tell us a little bit about you and your beginnings with your dad, wherever you want to start. But then tell about your family dynamics so that they understand. A little bit more about you.
So I am married to the man of my dreams, been married to him for 17 years. I call him my boyfriend. We have 3 beautiful girls, mine, his, and ours. So we have an Ashley who's 34. She's gonna be like, why are you telling my age all on Instagram? So Ashley 34, Sydney Joy 24, and then we have the miracle baby Charity at 15. So all different level of hormones. So So that's three different conversations, right?
Yes, right.
My husband is definitely a daddy of girls. And so it's a house full of girls, house full of hormones. So imagine that whole menopause thing going over. So I was raised with, it was five of us in my family, four girls and one boy. My brother was killed early, so in his 20s. So it was just us four girls. And when I was raised, I spent a lot of time with my nana, which was my grandma. And I didn't really see my biological dad, even though I was over, his mom's house. I didn't see him. So I don't really remember him growing up. Who I do remember is who you would reference, your bonus dad, is when that was when I came age 9. So age 9, my bonus dad, Wayne, took us in. He married my mom and, became this father figure in my life. So that went really good. I am so grateful for him being in my life because he provided that father figure that I needed at that time in that season. So here we go. Fast forward, when I'm in like my 30s is when I'm like, something's missing. I mean, I need something else. And I wasn't getting it from my mom. So, I mean, because I knew her side of the story. I lived with her. I knew her side, but I was missing something else. And I couldn't put my finger on it. So I didn't even know it was like I needed something from my biological dad. But my husband, he had been raised with his dad all his life. His dad is still his hero to the day he died. His dad died. It was his hero. So he couldn't understand why I didn't reach out at least to my biological dad because he was still living. He's like, why don't you have a relationship with your dad? Why would you not? You got answers about who you are because that's what it was. Who am I? What's my purpose? So many times we go through that in lives in different seasons where we want to know, what am I supposed to be doing in life? Why am I like this? Why am I like, I don't do things just like my sister. I have a lot of similarities, mind you, but there's a lot of differences. And those differences came when I actually picked up the phone and called my dad. I say I had his number. I don't know why I didn't call him. I knew how to get in contact with him. So it wasn't like I couldn't reach him or I didn't know where to find him. I could go right back to Waco and find him, So when I got up the courage to just ask the question, because I had a husband that couldn't understand why, when you had somebody that you could ask, why wouldn't you? Right. So I picked up the phone and asked the question. So at that stage, Fashay, at my 30s, I wasn't looking for, I didn't need to forgive him for anything. That didn't even matter. I didn't even care about what went on. Whatever went on between you and my mama, y'all did the best you could. God bless you. Okay, fine. But right now, in my 30s, talk to me. Tell me about who you are. Because after we're having these daily, so we started to develop a daily conversation, Fashay, every single day. Every single day for the last 10 years of my biological father's life, I spoke with him every single day.
So back up for us. So, okay. So just to make sure we're following, you were going on, would you see him periodically when you would go in your 20s before you came to this moment in your 30s where you were like, okay, where Severn really challenged you to say why, right?
Yeah, I didn't.
Did you see him
No.
at all at your grandmother's? Because I know you were close with your grandma. Okay.
Yeah, that my grandmother was. Oh, she was my. She was my.
I know.
This is my sweetie. I am so partial to grandmas just because my nana was so special to me. She's so special to me. But I don't have any recollection at all of my biological dad when I was there. So, and when I was talking to my grandmother, when I would say, Nana, how's Charles doing? So I called him by his first name. She said, I don't know. Why don't you call him and ask him? She didn't entertain it at all. She was not moved. She was like, why don't you call him and ask him? I never did.
And you said, moving on.
Yeah, next subject. Let's keep it going. I never did.
Now, did he have it? So did he have any biological other children?
I have a brother and another sister.
So So did you ask about them? Did you know about them between those years? You did?
Knew
Okay.
about them all the whole time I was with my grandmother. I knew about them. Knew they existed. I did
Okay.
not have a relationship with them
Got
because
it.
they were in another city at the time.
Okay.
But even then, I still didn't have her and didn't reach out either. So after starting this conversation with my dad every day, he told me about my brother. He said, "Well, why don't you call your brother?" I said, "I don't have his number." He's like, "Well, here's his number." I was like, oh, "Okay, I'll call him." It took me a while before I called him because I wasn't interested in a relationship with my brother as much as I was interested in a relationship with my dad. So, it
Got
makes
it.
sense. But that's how it
No,
was.
yeah.
That was my thought. So the
So
more I talked to him,
so
I
let
was
me
able
ask you one
to,
other question. So when you called your dad, just kind of take us to that moment because somebody might be like, "Oh, I might try this."
yeah.
How did that start? Like when you called him, he answered. Uh, did you just go straight into your questions? Were you
No,
hoping how did it
no. My first call was, so I said I had to build up the courage. So the
right?
first call was more of like, hey, hey, Dad, how you doing? Hey, Pumpkin. Hey, I'm just calling to see how you doing. It was a very uncomfortable. The first several conversations were uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
and they were forced,
Mm,
forced from me.
for
I
you.
made sure I wanted to know about this other side of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure that I put an emphasis on myself. Now you're going to call him today, call him every day, and you're going to talk about whatever. So it was more of how you doing? I work here. This is what I did. And he'll tell me, some different jobs that he had through the years and give me his input. And he had the funniest little quirky jokes, which I mean, I have some quirkiness about me that I picked that realized it came from him.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he spoke to me, it was like a daddy talks to a little girl. I became this little girl all over again to
Mm,
where it wasn't this 34, 35-year-old talking to him. It was this little girl just saying, "Hey, Dad, guess
mm-hmm.
what I did today? And what do you think about this?" And just all of my day, every single day, just from that daily conversation, it was filling
Mm-hmm.
whatever void I was missing. It was filling it just by those daily uncomfortable in the beginning conversations, and then it became like my friend.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. So okay. So because this is so interesting, when you think about okay, so because in essence he was like a stranger, like you
yeah,
knew him you knew of him, but you didn't know him. So when you called him in, his response was, "Hey, Pumpkin," as though he was familiar with you, right? What can you share? Can you share if you can recall any like thoughts you had, like emotions you had about your interactions? Because I'm thinking like some people may, okay, I call him and he seems familiar. And I'm like, some people, their heart is still hardened. Like, you don't
yeah,
know me like that. My name is Camellia. Okay.
yeah,
I'm not Pumpkin. Oh, I
yeah.
mean, you know what I mean? So
Right.
what, if you can share some, I don't know, the mental or emotional space you were in, because it sounded like even from when you started, you were like, hey, I was very clear that I wanted to like create from here on, right? So did you like release any kind of emotional expectations ahead of time so that you wouldn't be offended or that it wouldn't? So just share a little.
No, it came later.
Okay.
That part came later because
Okay.
I was intentional about one, getting to know this stranger,
Mm-hmm.
getting to know my dad, and figuring out how that fill this void that I was missing in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
as I got more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
talking to him every single day, then it came up like, I still remember this. Then it came up to this conversation where I was like, so he came from Charles, he went from Charles to Dad. And
Mm-hmm.
that was big. I said, so Dad, how did I end up over Nunny's house, which is my grandma? He's like, well, I didn't abandon you if that's what you're thinking. I said, well, I sure did. I thought that because I didn't see you. I don't remember you as a child. So this is months. It was probably, I would say probably a full year before we actually had this type of transparent conversation where
Mhm.
where then the more I talk to him, these emotions are coming up. Well, why didn't I see you? Why I didn't abandon you, Pumpkin? Me and your mom, we wasn't together. I made a choice. I got married to somebody else and I had another family. But I wanted someone to make sure to be able to help your mom. So I made sure that my mom was able to take care of you. I did
Mhm.
not abandon you. Always checked up on you. Always asked about you. I said, I don't remember any of that. Well, no, you're not going to remember any of that because you were younger. As you got older, life just happened, Pumpkin. I am so sorry. I am
Mhm.
sorry that there was so much. It was so much emotion with him explaining where he was.
Mhm.
And the only question I wanted to know is, how did I end up right at my nana's and not remember you at all?
Mhm.
I wanted him to explain that absence.
Yes.
And so that's the part where it came later down the line as I got comfortable. So I didn't go right into the conversation and say, hey, why you wasn't there? That
Yeah.
came
So
later.
so what I want to call out, because what I really have, and even listening to what you've shared so far, number one, a takeaway, here's a nugget. God may be placing somebody in your life to challenge you to do something that's outside of your comfort zone to restore a relationship, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just so happened to be Severn, who kept challenging you, asking you why not, and he had his foot on the gas, right? And he was curious, and so you actually responding and to that, and how God continued to use him to water this seed
I took the
of
challenge.
interest. And you
Yeah.
took the challenge and you did something courageous that you knew would be uncomfortable, that you could have went into with an expectation that he should be reaching out to me because I
Right.
am a child. And
Right.
so I just want to call that out because that's for me. I think that that's key in this whole what you did next, what I saw you did next. And I'm not sure, sometimes we can see things from an outside perspective that you may not have seen, but what I saw with what you shared, you then took you were uncomfortable, then you demonstrated courage.
Mm-hmm.
Once you demonstrated courage, hey Charles, this is Camellia, you then worked to create a safe space,
Mm-hmm.
and you were intentionally
Right.
working on that. And because I know Camellia, I already know that she already consulted with the Lord, and I already know she did her thing. And so when we're talking about this, I'm sure it wasn't easy, but when you are trying to be intentional and you gather your own self, it really does help you to level set when you go into before you go into a conversation. Because if you go in saying, just kind of not being intentional about, okay, what is it you're trying to do, you can get into a lot of offense, or make something very a lot of create a lot of tension, so
Yeah.
that you are unable to follow through on what you originally planned, which is, I'm gonna call him every day. If
Yeah.
you didn't proceed with caution, and you didn't really, if you weren't delicate in
Mm-hmm.
that process, not only with him but with yourself,
Right. Mm-hmm.
if that
I
didn't
made
happen,
myself, I was accountable to myself. Yeah.
yeah, those things are key, right?
Yeah. You can't
Because
go in with a wall already up. If you go in with a wall up, you're not going to get anything out of it.
yes, yeah, and
I,
that's
I
what
think our parents, they did. I mean, sometimes I think, as a parent now, who,
mhm,
with a grown child, that now I have these grown conversations with.
yeah,
I mean, we didn't do everything right.
right,
I mean,
absolutely,
we made a lot of mistakes. So I
mhm,
think we have to give not only our parents grace, but we got to give ourselves grace to realize
right,
we were not back in their shoes. We
yeah,
don't know what happened, what caused to make them make this decision. You know what? And where I was is, who cares?
right,
And I was real selfish about it. I need some help from where I am right here.
Hey,
And
right,
I think you're gonna be the one that's gonna help me.
right, right.
You just happen to be my biological dad, so let's
Yeah,
go for it.
you're like, you don't even got an option, sir. So, Charles, next thing on my list is to
Look,
do this.
I'm here. Look, I
Yeah,
need some answers.
I
And you
love
know
that. I
what,
love
Fashay, talking to my dad and him, just the word of just that statement that you were not abandoned. It
yes.
unlocked the door to what to the answer I needed. It was like him saying this, my dad saying this. He was like, he took this key and unlocked this door, and it just opened up to who I am. Now I know who Camellia is. All
Mhm.
parts,
Right.
all parts of it. I can tell you what I am and what I'm not. And,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's just from being a student of self, and being a student of who my parents are, my mom and my dad, and
Yeah.
realizing the value of both
Yes.
of them together, how they make up,
And
Camellia.
how you pursued that.
Yeah.
You intentionally
Oh
pursued
yeah.
uh learning. And so that's another call out that I want to highlight. You When we have to intentionally pursue what we're trying to get, even if the person, because you, which may make you the person that needs to initiate and carry it forth until
Mhm.
something stable is in place, because that it's, I mean, sometimes it just, maybe it should have been another way. Just like you said, it should have been another way, but it isn't. This is what you have today. So how do you work with it? And then the other call out I want to say is, you allowed yourself to be vulnerable and be the little girl that he was actually, to respond. And that is huge. So because I could, when you were talking about it and we talked about it before, it's like, man, I'm 30 something, mid 30s. Like, but him just saying that, and me allowing myself to lock
Right.
into that person. I mean, that is so,
Yes.
yeah,
That's huge. That's
yeah.
huge.
Mhm,
That is huge because
mhm,
that's the part I was missing. That absence of when I was that age, when I was that little girl, I was missing that. And developing this relationship with him over time caused me to just bring that little girl just started to come out. And the way he just, I mean, girl, my dad, I could truly say, my dad truly had just adored me. When we talked on the phone, no one else had his attention. He was talking to I'm talking to my daughter. Oh, I had his complete. So he showed me. So this is good. He showed me how this man is supposed to treat this woman.
mhm.
He gave me his complete attention. Every time I asked him a question, he was honest, transparent. He even made jokes about some of the stuff I said, and always had this guiding hand. you
Mm,
know, Not forceful, just a guiding. It was a suggestion because that's how I receive it. I mean, you
right.
can't make me do something, but I might take your suggestion.
Yes,
And
yes.
I got that from him. So I mean, I was like, because if I told him specifically, Dad, you need to go to the doctor, you need to do this. He's like, all right, pumpkin. But if I said, I heard about this plan that they have at the hospital that's close by you, and you're within the same age range, you ought to check it out. Drop it. A suggestion.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Uh-huh.
And I know that because I used to have to do it with him. The same thing. So it's different characteristics I was able to pick up with
Mhm.
who I am and how I process information, how I take it in, and why
Yeah.
I'm stubborn.
Right. No, but those even just calling out some things that your dad did, right? Your dad, I'm sure he has some of his own emotions in the inside, like you shared earlier, when you asked him one question and he created a moment of vulnerability for himself to give you to respond with a level of transparency to
Right.
you. And that's one thing I want to just emphasize for fathers, right?
Right.
As Camellia was, it doesn't matter how old we are or how young we are. If you have a level of transparency and vulnerability that you can demonstrate to a kid, there is something amazing that happens. I
Mhm.
mean, just a side note, she don't know I'm about to say this, but Toya, I was in the car with her. We took a road trip not too long ago, and her dad called while we were in the car, and oh, how he talked to her, which is so sweet. I mean, he was like, even how he answered the phone. Well, she answered. He was like, "Oh, hey," and it was just so. It was so like a
This
hug.
endearing,
Hug.
this
Yeah,
adorable,
yeah,
just like
yeah.
I'm telling you, that's
Yeah,
exactly how my dad talked to
it
me.
was a hug, virtual hug or a verbal hug. I was like, wow, this is so
Yeah,
sweet. And so
that's
then he
exactly what it is.
and then when she was like, okay, daddy, I'm gonna call you back because I'm in the car. We're oh, no problem. Like he was like, oh, it's whatever, kind of like whatever you said, but definitely like I'm interested and I desire to talk to you. I heard that too. And then she was like, oh, well, meet Shay. This is Shay. And he was like, oh, hey. And I was like, oh, hi. Look, I'm all like, oh. And then he said this. He goes, well, you have a precious gem with you. Talk about his daughter. He put me on. I was like, oh, and yes,
Oh,
sir. Yeah, I was like, and yes, sir. I know these things,
yeah,
but it's just so sweet.
yeah,
But
yeah.
if you guys haven't heard Toya, who I'm speaking about, her story, we talked about, I think in episode 1, my first interview that I ever did with anyone about this topic. But it was and she's a child of 6, 5. How many?
Total 7.
7. Okay, I'm all the way off. 7 with her dad.
Ooh, lively.
And Island. He's the Island dad. So she shares all that, but just and then it kind of reminds me when she also, her and her siblings also were intentional about reaching out to their father and saying, here's where we are. Some people are at different stages. Some people may not be like Camellia, that they're like, I'm here and then I'll back into the details. Some people are like, I'm still back there, I'm still that kid and I feel abandoned. I know that wasn't your intention, but can we go here? But if a father, if you really can work to handle it with care, and they're in a level of vulnerability and sensitivity, that you will, even if we had 4 walls up, those walls will come down.
You will break them down. I'm telling you.
Yes.
It's a dad that will do that.
It's a dad. Yes.
Yeah, they will do that. I mean, it's the sweetest tone. I mean,
It is. But once the dad becomes defensive,
mm-hmm.
or even if the child or a young adult is like, well, you weren't there, I promise you, if you work, it may not happen the first or second or third time, but if you work to show that or 6, right?
Yeah,
but if
it
you
might take a minute.
because there's a lot of scarring and a lot of hurt there. But if you work on that and you provide a response of, like you said, your dad was transparent. He shared his story, which you may have had questions about, but it was still his experience and what he thought. And so sometimes it's a matter of allowing that. And then, especially when you're dealing with men, and you could definitely attest, even with husbands and boyfriends, sometimes when you keep going on with a man, you lose them, or it can create a little extra discomfort and mess up any safety. So sometimes you have to go in kind of milestones. You don't need to solve everything.
Just a little
bit.
Just a little bit. Plant the seed and keep it going.
And keep it going.
Keep it going.
And if you can do that and allow him, a lot of men are processors by nature. So when you're sharing something and you allow them to process, if you go into it with a level of understanding that they may not respond right away, they may need to ponder it. If you understand that, you can create a lot of safety.
Yeah, that's exactly. You do have to give them time.
Yeah.
And it might be the daughters too that need some time, or the sons.
Absolutely. Everybody. Yeah.
Give me a little time, but I would say have the courage to be consistent, because the reward of it is priceless.
Yes.
It's priceless.
Yes.
I'm so grateful that I got a chance to get to know my dad, and I could say that, I got a chance to really get to know him.
So when you guys reconnected, did you have any, so you guys over time, you had conversations, and you said initially some of the emotions or some of the vibe, you felt there was a level of discomfort because initially you initiated something, and and that was uncomfortable. And then some of the conversations were a little awkward, but you had consistency in it.
Mhm.
But as you guys explored different topics and different things, were there any conversations where you felt like they were tough or challenging conversations where you didn't leave feeling like, okay, this was pleasant, but it was something where it was more of a challenge, and you guys talked about anything that was difficult?
Yeah. Well, the first part of it, the uncomfortableness was just like, ah, yeah, I talked to my dad. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No big thing. But after we had that transparent conversation, if I say
Mhm.
that's what sealed it all. I mean, that changed the whole
Yeah.
trajectory of our relationship to
Got
where
it.
it was wide open.
Right.
I mean, he was like, "Fuck, you can ask me anything. If
Yeah.
I know, I'm gonna tell you." I mean, he
Mm.
became this open. That's that transparency where you just open. I mean,
Yeah.
at this stage, I mean, he was in his 60s. So at this stage, he's like, "Yeah,
It don't
what you want to
matter.
know? What you want to know?" I mean,
Right. Right.
we compare it to like the last leg relay race, right? So we're in this
Yeah.
last leg of our life, right? So at
Hmm.
this stage, we ain't got time to play games. What
Right.
you want to know? Well, I'm not going to the grave with this. Ask.
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of times we're scared to ask the question because we don't
That's
want to know the answer.
right.
And
That
I
is
did.
a good point. So sometimes we think we want to know the answer until we have the opportunity, kind of like we're like, and then we dance around it
He's
sometimes.
like,
Or
yeah,
yeah,
do I really want to know
yeah.
this? Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, because even the question you asking him about, okay, so now why didn't I see you? You know
yeah,
why? And when he said, well, you weren't abandoned.
yeah,
Did you feel that way? Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Sure
And
did.
so he said, oh,
I didn't see you. The only dad I remember is from 9 on. My bonus dad, Wayne, that he did what he did and raised us. So I mean, he did an outstanding job. I mean,
yeah,
showed me how to, you know, change a tire, change oil, all that. Did I was
yeah,
he was the man figure in our family, you know, but
yeah,
it was still, I knew that, wait a minute, this, yeah, something is missing. And I think as women, it probably has happened with sons as well. There's some spot in your life where you're going to be like, I need answers.
yeah.
And I
And
can't get the answer from you.
yeah, and so and recognizing that, because there is I think everybody has, obviously we have unique journeys, but even with the fact that by the because you had your bonus dad,
Yeah.
there were also things that you got exposure to, and it sounds like he was an intentional bonus dad. He was
Yeah.
present. He did.
Yeah.
So we know some women that's not the case, right? Sometimes you may not have a bonus dad, and so that creates another experience and narrative for
It
you. So
does.
you may have more questions, but sometimes there's the power of another man that can be intentional about
Yeah.
pouring into some. You don't know how many, even though this particular cup that Camellia was seeking to be filled was still empty. You don't know how many other cups he filled,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He filled so many other cups. So
Yeah.
but this other area doesn't downplay anything he did. You're like saying, I'm grateful.
Oh yeah,
Like,
he loved
area.
my mom. Was a provider for all of us, all my sisters and my brother. You know, and gave us what they could, provide together. You know, so no, at all. I definitely thank God for the people, for the men that God placed in our lives.
Yeah.
I think they're placed in our lives for a season. I think real men, good men, recognize that and are willing,
Yes.
we're willing to be like, hey, yeah, go have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
get
Yeah.
to know that other side of you. Because I think biologically, what part can be addressed is somebody who you're going to have the same likes or something, some type of similarity, just like your dad.
Yes.
And if
Hmm.
you don't have that person to ask, and I want to call that too, is that do it while you have time.
Yes.
Because the last 10 years of my biological dad's life, I had that time. And I'm so grateful I took advantage of that time. But there's other people who your biological dad is within reach, whether
Yes.
a phone call, a text, or down the street while they are still here. Because guess what? When they're gone, you get all them questions and all that unforgiveness or anger that you have, you can forget about it because you can't direct it to anybody once they're gone.
No.
So
Yeah.
while you have time,
And
take
and
the
yeah,
time.
and realize we realize that the biggest thing is you taking the initiative to do what
Yeah.
you can. Now, if the person, because not everybody that we reach out to is healthy enough to actually process or reciprocate what we're giving, we're extending. So that that's one thing. But I think there's something powerful and a peace that God gives you when you do what you can. That's what the call out that Camellia is emphasizing, like do what you can, because if you do it, and there is like, sometimes we all know that age does not guarantee maturity. Okay.
It sure doesn't.
So
No.
and so they could be still immature. They could be mentally or emotionally in a different place. They could be substance abuse. There could be so many different stories
Right.
that may make it more of a different journey for you. Because, you know, some people deal with people that are more, you know, manipulative when it comes to you being in a vulnerable space, all those different things. So if, as you do it though, as you try to reach out and you recognize who you're working with, definitely, you know, we can only speak from our lens, which is, you know, definitely ask the Lord to help you, but also get other people that can journey with you, right? That can help you understand if you are, because when we're seeking something, we become more vulnerable to, you know, people just kind of like taking advantage of that vulnerability and that type of thing. So you need someone to help you with that. And so that's something, but the biggest call out is do your part, because if they pass and you haven't done your part, that's the part that will really wear on it'll weigh on you a lot. Yeah. And so let me ask you this. So when your dad told you to reach out to your brother, right? Because you have a brother and a sister.
Brother and a sister.
So, okay. So tell us about whether you did that. And when you did that, did you ask about how their relationship was with him?
Oh yeah. So that's a whole. So yeah, I didn't reach out initially to my brother. But I did over probably a couple of weeks, because when I talked to my dad again and he did bring it up, I was like, oh yeah, no, I haven't called him, but I'm gonna call him right now. Dad, as soon as I get off the phone with you, I'm gonna call him, and I did. So I called him and I said, so hey, this is your sister. And he was like, awkward quietness. And he was like, oh, where you live? Thought that was kind of crazy to ask me. That was the first question he had. I said, Dad said that I live close by you. And he was like, you do? He said, well, let's meet. I said, okay. When you want to meet? Well, you said we're close by, right? So what's wrong with today? Okay, fine. So I talked to him one day, and that same day he came to see me.
Wow.
And it turns out that we were just like, his mom lives the next city. I'm Cedar Hill. His mom lives in DeSoto. Wow. I could have literally ran into this guy and wouldn't even known that he was my brother. But girl, let me tell you. So my baby brother, he looks like the splitting image of my dad, just light skin. I mean, he did, and the whole mannerism, the walk is just, I was like, oh man. And so here's the interesting fact. My brother didn't have a good relationship with my dad. So he had a different story than me. I don't remember, and then had a wonderful relationship the last 10 years of our dad's life, but he didn't have a good relationship with his dad. Now he knew of me. Now all of us, my sister, my brother, and me, we all knew of one another, but we never spent time together.
And you had 3 different moms?
Two.
Okay,
so the sister and the brother, they have the same mom.
Okay.
Same dad, and then me. So I like to pinpoint. I said I'm the first, and, which was crazy, which is so crazy, right? So I never knew. So even though I was the first, but I was also like my cousins told me I was like the favorite. I just thought my nana loved me because I always got the good stuff. Where it turns out I was the favorite. I didn't know. I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
We had this conversation. Me and my brother had this conversation where even today he still is kind of struggling with the fact that he didn't get a chance to kind of know the dad that I knew the last 10 years. And as a man, I think he truly would have benefited from knowing the later dad.
Yeah.
Because here again, just think about the age that we are when we had our kids. When I had Ashley 34 years ago, I was a totally different person than what I am now. So Charity's, my youngest, my 15-year-old, has a totally different lifestyle than what my first child had, just from the different seasons that we're in. Yeah. So although my brother didn't get a chance to know dad during the later parts of life, I think it really would have benefited him during this stage and his whole manhood thing. We, on the other hand, we're like this, close. Talk all the time. Of course, he's a Cowboys fan. We see each other often. I see my nephew, his wife. It's just.
And what about your
whole brother?
What about your sister? You guys,
she's in another state, and I still have not talked to her. So this is why I'm still. So we can still pray about this. So we still are out.
So, but this is that's your sister, and that is a sister. That's his. They have both the same mom and dad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And that's I definitely, and they're both younger than you. So yeah. Oh,
yeah, wow. I know. It's like the conversation. So he's like when I tell him, I said, you're really like the baby brother for real. Cause the stuff you're doing is crazy. But so him being the baby brother who we have a really good relationship with, and because we're in the same city, so we see each other often, and she is in a different state. So of course he doesn't see her that often. And their relationship is just kind of choppy. It probably could be better. He probably wishes it could be better, but I still haven't seen her in my adult life or anything like that.
Wow. So are you planning to call her?
No.
No. That's not part of the plan. Okay.
So full disclaimer. Now if the Holy Spirit just say, hey, you're gonna have to fix that. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want to go on record. It's definitely not me. I want to go on record. It ain't as a child. It ain't my fault. I have tried.
Okay. No, this is good. That's good. So well let's get into this then. Okay, so in your opinion, how do you feel like, how some people talk about women with daddy issues, right? And that we date differently, we interact with men differently. Did you have any, because I know you did have your bonus dad, did you have any, was there any kind of impact on how you viewed men or how you engage with men based on your fatherhood experience?
Well, I tell you, it wasn't my bonus dad. So it wasn't really my bonus dad. It was my uncles on my dad's side, which is, I don't know how this happened, but my uncle, I had this one uncle. He always smelled good. And he was always starched down, just looked good. He just starched down. You know they use starch.
Yeah. And the pants be straight up at attention.
He always looked so good, smelled good. He admired my nana. I just remember thinking, man, he's such a nice man. As a kid, I thought that. And then as I got older, that's when I started realizing what I had a preference for. So you got to look good, smell good, dress really nice, early on it was more like the what do you call them, smart thugs, but then later on in life it came like you got no thugs, just
right. She said, I want you to have a little hood, but I need you to be in corporate. No, I need you to have a
little bit. So if we need to go there, because I think we all got it in us where you push the right button and it's gonna be
right.
It'll show up.
Yeah.
So I think it was my uncle. It was my
Yeah.
uncles because although I didn't see my dad, I always saw my uncles. And they
Mm,
always had this, they just took care of my nana. And I love that. I love the way that they loved my nana.
yeah.
And I wanted that.
Yeah, I love the fact that you called out how we pay attention to how men treat other women,
Yeah.
right? So if I think that sometimes fathers, whether we're in the house with our father or we're not, we are always watching how you actually interact with women. So there was one podcast I had watched, like a clip I had watched, and I think it was one of the judge shows, and she was telling a young man that how you treat the mother of your child, right? Your daughter is watching you,
Mm-hmm.
and if she feels if you're constantly saying that she's not the woman for you,
Yeah.
right? You're saying she's not the woman for you. She
Yeah.
is too dramatic. She's this, she's that, but she and you say that out loud, and she hears you say that, and she sees your dismissiveness towards her mom, but she also sees you stay the night. She also sees you, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
telling her a message, is giving a message that um that it's okay to have this kind of interaction
Yeah.
with a man. And
It's
so even
acceptable.
yeah, it's acceptable. And even on the flip side, um when people ask me, well, since you didn't have your dad, did you have any daddy issues? To your point, I recognize the men that were around, my bonus dads, and what I did like, I recognized even I had one thing I'll share with everybody coming up is that this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so I'm going to spend some time talking about the one uh, man that my mom dated, that she had in her life, that could have been a bonus dad. He was actually the man I lived with the most with my mom,
Mm-hmm.
but because of his immaturity, because of who he was, and his, everything he was dealing with, um, and how I watched how he moved, how he acted, it impacted me as a child. And of course, I witnessed a lot of domestic violence, and verbal and emotional. But what I was grateful for, because there were a lot of kids that I was around at that time that experienced similar,
Mm-hmm.
and then grew up and really experienced similar, right, where they were in abusive relationships. But because I saw that, but then I also saw my bonus dads. I knew men out there there were men out there with character. There were
Right.
men that would get upset, but they didn't go off and hit you. They didn't
Right.
sometimes even yell at you. One of my goddads, I knew we used to get on his last nerve, and he had a strong wife, very opinionated,
Mm-hmm.
but the way he expressed, when he said something, his voice was just even tone, and
Right.
no games, okay. but,
Yeah.
he, but he also was not going to haul off and hit somebody or
Yeah.
be physical. He wasn't going to storm out and
Mm-hmm.
be gone and,
Mm-hmm.
and avoid issues, but he
Right.
was present. And that all those things, like, I'm sure my dad didn't realize that I was watching those things. I
Mm-hmm.
was watching when somebody made it mad, I would watch and see, I wonder how he's going to respond. But I
Right.
had got a view of this other man, and he told me that that's how men responded. And a
Right.
lot of men back in, the 80s, a lot of them used 70s and 80s abuse as a control, a way
Yeah.
to control. And I mean, I'm sure it happens now, but I had just enough men that showed me character. I need to pay attention to how they respond
Right.
to very intense situations. How do they react when they don't like something? How do
Mm-hmm.
they treat other women? Are they nice? Are they inquisitive? Do
Mm-hmm.
they act? Do they hug? Do they change quick?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do they
Yeah.
change quick? I was like,
Mhm.
oh wait, you just wasn't
Yeah.
that person. Who's this popping up?
Right.
you
Right.
know? And
Right.
all of that, when I started dating, I started paying attention to that. If one
Yeah.
minute you were cool and the next minute you were high headed, I was like, oh wait
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
because I then would go back to what I had been exposed to. And I
Yeah.
didn't think about it as being a daddy issue. I just felt like there are certain traumatic things, certain things that I've been exposed to.
Triggers. Yeah.
Triggers. And I'm not interested in, like you said, because let me tell you what, I'm not a killer, but don't push me. Don't push
No.
me. Okay.
We all have a button. We all
And
have a button.
yeah, and And so, but I felt like that, but because I felt like that, and for real, and for real life, because I felt like survival was important,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me. But and
You
I
talk about it in your book. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And so I feel like men um and women need to understand that sometimes we have a tendency to title people that don't have their fathers around, or we're just creating relationships. We feel like, oh well, if a woman doesn't have the right relationship with her dad, I'm always, I'm leery of who she may be, or how
Right,
she have a functional relationship.
right,
And
right.
so is she problematic? Is she needy? Is
Mhm.
she high maintenance?
Right.
Do I have to be a dad to her? Camellia, I don't know if it's you, but I don't need that. I don't need Cool to be a dad to me, but I do have some, if they want to put it in a category of dad, I am going to need him to be create safe space for me. I
Yeah.
need him to, know how to cover me.
Right.
And so
Right.
those are things that come with a man being a man.
Right. Right. And as our husbands
Yeah.
too, they're
Hmm.
showing, like our daughters, they're
Yes.
watching it.
They're watching.
So this
Yes.
this goes all down, even with our dads, what they did or did not do,
Yes.
and then now with our husbands and their dads,
Hmm.
those them girls are watching.
They are.
They
And
are
so,
watching to
yeah.
see how you take care of their mama, see how you respond to their mama, and best believe when they start liking guys, they
Hmm.
are they are forming this picture based off what they see in their
Yes.
own house.
And they're watching if you go after, and I'm just gonna put this out here because I saw this little boy say, the mom was like, "Oh, when you get older, what kind of girlfriend you want?" He said, "I want a crazy woman." Oh, he said this. He said, "I want a crazy woman." Oh, he said, "I want crazy girls." What he said, and she said, "No, sweetie, you want a nice lady." He said, "No, I want a crazy lady. I want a crazy lady that yells, don't do her homework, skips, Kuman, don't go." Kumon is a math studying. So he's a little boy. And she said, "No, honey." He said, "Yes, I like him crazy."
Where did he get that
Girl, he saw it somewhere. You see what I'm saying? Because in the men community, y'all tell me if I'm wrong. If you have not heard this, tell me you haven't heard it in the comments. But it's a well-known fact that some men will say, "You know what? I do like them a little bit crazy," until they turn that crazy on them. They be thinking it's fine. They be thinking it's fine. And then when she go and roll up on you, then you like, "Oh,
Who? So
she's crazy."
this is again is the power of our tongue.
Yes.
Okay, so what if you want a crazy? Keep on calling them crazy. Don't call your husband no crazy. Don't call him crazy. Don't call him fool.
Mhm.
You better speak what you want to happen.
Yeah. What you want to experience. Yes.
Right, what you want to
Yeah.
experience. You
Yes.
keep you keep saying that he ain't making no money. He's never gonna make any money. You
Yeah.
keep saying
Yeah.
he got bad credit. He gonna keep having bad credit. You
Hmm.
better start putting some other stuff out here about
Yes.
what we have to speak positively over our husband and our children, over our household.
And even just in general relationships, right? And just
Yes.
so even let's talk, even like you going back talking about, okay, your father, I want to reconcile this relationship. There are a lot of things I don't know. It when you're rehashing a conversation or recapping it with someone and he's struggling, don't say, be careful. Okay, well, I don't think he wants to tell me. That you can easily switch that and say he was struggling with telling me, but he gonna get there because I'm saying here. Whatever you
You know
want.
what?
Yes.
Let that awkward silence sit there and
Mhm.
wait for it.
Mhm.
Just he might be
Mhm.
thinking about it. I don't care. I got patience. I'm gonna just sit there and let's see. I want to know.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes. Yes.
my husband told me one time, sometimes I'm like a dog on a bone when I want something. Because so when you want something, you're gonna sit there until it happen. I think
Yes.
women, we can, especially mamas, we can get this real because you start messing with us. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we could just sit there and just let it wear out. I'm gonna sit here until I
Well,
get what I want.
it's all about strategy, right?
Yeah, us, baby. I'm strategic. I'm just sitting there waiting. I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait.
Yes.
I
Yes.
got time.
Yes. Well, you know what? The other thing that watching my bonus dads that were not romantically involved with my mom, but they actually poured into her and they nurture her and they were attentive to her. And my mom was very needy. My mom was very high maintenance. She had a lot of trauma in her life. She was rejected a lot by men and things of that nature, not knowing who her father, well, thinking she knew who her father was, but that's a whole different story. But the point is that when she came encounter with even other people's husbands, she was like, she could wear you out and your husband out. And, but watching how my bonus dads interacted with her was inspiring. It told me that there are certain men that actually could do that. And it also, where we started, I watched where women and men could have platonic relationships, sister brother relationships, and invest in each other and pour in each other, even as damaged or toxic as sometimes they could be, or I know my mom could be sometimes. They still knew how to bring her back in, but also knew how to say, okay, you crossing the line because this is my boundary. I'm this is my wife or my whatever. And with meekness, put control in place. And again, to watch men do that, to watch men be vulnerable and demonstrate emotion, but also be very firm and create boundaries. That was important. That was important for me to see. And so when I encountered it, even with my husband, not having a father blueprint, right? But actually, because of the lack thereof, saying this is the kind of man I want to be. So really, my whole one of my mottos is practice makes progress. We've been practicing with marriage and the relationship, and God just continues to progress it, right? Because we're trying things out, but like you said earlier, we don't get everything right. So we have to be open for feedback. So if you are a woman that have some trauma or some feelings or gaps because your father wasn't there, and you're not sure how it's impacting how you interact with men, promise you, if you ask your friends or you ask somebody, they'll tell you, because they'll tell you, well, you do seem kind of, you do seem this way. You seem very much.
Well, ask a friend too, but because they'll tell you, a real friend is a real.
So that's why I say ask somebody, ask God who you're supposed to ask, and then make sure that you don't give them an experience to where they don't want to answer again.
No, it's gonna come out regardless.
Look, hold on. Almond Glaze said, she would. Almond Glaze called out something when we were talking about watch how you speak. About your husband, or speak about your children or father. She said, even about yourself, watch that. And that's spot on.
That part.
You deserve, like, even don't claim I have daddy-daughter issues. Don't claim that, I'm struggling because my dad wasn't here. Right. Okay. That's a true fact. Your dad wasn't there. Or your dad, you don't know who your dad is. You don't have to acquire any, you don't have to claim any issues because of him being absent. You can say, all right, so we all have struggles. Well, I have a disconnect between how this works because I didn't have exposure there. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible, right? That doesn't mean I do have abandonment. I have experienced abandonment. So I do have triggers around that area. Right. You don't have to say, well, just because I'm a dad, my daddy was gone, because I will tell you, and I'm not trying to be preachy, the enemy's always listening. And so you will be labeled, you have daddy issues, and sometimes targeted because they feel like you have daddy issues. They feel like they can take advantage of that. And I think women need to understand that. And men, calling y'all out too, stop saying these women have daddy issues, because again, if we're in the same vein, you probably do too. If your dad was,
if your dad wasn't there, something.
So, and if that's the case, then how do you, if you think that this woman is a problem or is struggling with certain things because her dad wasn't there, have you looked in the mirror to see what you could be lacking because you didn't have proper exposure to how to treat a woman or the mother. Like we all have some things, and I'm not trying to say what's the word say. How do you see? Oh,
The plank in my eye. How do you see the plank in somebody else's eye when you got a plank in your own eye?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's so if you really have to be careful of how we're. We all have to be careful with how we're moving and what we're claiming, but it definitely a lack of exposure to functional and positive relationships, and not only just positive, even negative experiences, and seeing how people work through those things. Right? How did your father not being present, or your father being vulnerable? He may not have thought about, well, how am I going to express this to Camellia one day? But giving him the space to do that, those things are, each person learns in that experience if you give yourself time. But so okay, so we definitely it sounds like as it relates to men, we watched who we wanted to watch and said, okay, I want that from inside out, right?
Yeah, it's either way. Good, bad, or indifferent. We learned.
Absolutely. And that's all you can do. So that's really what we want you to take away from that. And then watch how you're speaking things on yourself and towards other people. And just because we have struggles, it does not have to be a part of our identity. And that's the piece that we have to remember. Because according to the world, I would have been a fatherless child, right? Because I would fit all the statistical information, but he also said, he said, I'm a father to the fatherless. So if you want to change your narratives and acquire me as your father, then I got everything. What we talking about? So check out my,
we always have a choice. There's always a choice of which report you're going to believe.
Absolutely.
So that's why you have to be mindful of how you're talking about yourself. So good call out.
Absolutely. So tell us, okay, if there are dads and daughters out there, and so all of, I think what we've been sharing so far, it doesn't matter if you're a teenage daughter that feel like they want to restore something with their father, or you're 50, 60 years old and your father is still there. We think all this could apply to you, but if you had to give them some nuggets about how to restore both dads and daughters, what would you share with them that they should consider and put into practice?
I would say the first thing is having enough courage to, if your dad is still here, I would say have enough courage to make a phone call or make a visit, to have a relationship. And the relationship, within that relationship, you will start to develop this transparent, this safe space where you can actually get the questions answered. But you owe it to yourself to, at least while they're here, you owe it to yourself to at least give yourself the opportunity to find out the whys. Because we all have these whys of why this doesn't happen, and what happened there. And you got two people in the world when you're talking about, how you get a baby. You got a mom and a dad. You got two sides. And while they're still alive, just have enough courage to have a conversation. Have the conversation and be consistent and intentional about having the conversation. Day in, day out. Every day. Make it normal. Make it a part of your to-do list to have the conversation. I did every day. You don't have to do every day. Maybe it's just once a week. And if you could see them, if you can make a visit, I would say do that. But the rewards of it is priceless. It's priceless. I can tell you there's nothing that I am so grateful to had an opportunity to develop a relationship with my biological dad. And then I can just say there's no regret. There's a lot of people right now can't say I don't have any regret. I don't have any regrets because my dad gave me an open forum to ask him whatever, and I asked whatever. Whenever it came, the question came, I asked. And he was open and transparent enough to just share. And it wasn't no hard feelings because of where I was in life. I just needed to know an answer. And sometimes, depending on where you are in life, that's all you need is an answer.
Mhm.
I mean, whether it's going to be good for you or bad for you, you just still want to know the answer. It's like getting the answers to the test. I mean,
Yes.
I just want to know.
Mhm.
I just need to know about this.
Yeah.
And I think dads, when they're transparent enough to have that conversation and willing to have that conversation with their daughters, with their sons,
Mhm.
that it will transform their lives. It will
Yes.
transform their lives.
Yeah.
And within transforming their lives, you transform their kids' lives. It becomes this ripple effect, right? Where
Yeah.
you change the world.
Yeah. And even what you just, that last part, we don't know how, even if your dad were still here and I were to ask him, like, how impactful has it been for a Camellia to be in your life the last 10 years? I'm sure he would be like, oh my gosh,
Oh,
that's because there's something about when you're a parent, if you're really into the parenting thing, our kids, I know Asian
yeah.
Jaden changed my life every day. Like, I learn from them every day, but I learn about them, but I learn about me.
Yeah.
I learn about who I am. I learn,
Yeah.
like, so fathers that are out there that are a little apprehensive about, where do I start? What am I doing? Like, I know she wants or he wants this from me. Can I provide it? Can I meet the expectation? Don't put that much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if you have a conversation with your children and they are expecting you, you can say, hey, I would be more than happy to, continue this journey, but are you okay with us doing it one step at a time?
Yeah.
Because as a father, you are the lead. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you haven't been there. Now you can't come in trying to dictate and regulate stuff because
Yeah.
ain't
You can't come in and do that. No, 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 no.
no, you can't do that. But with a level of gentleness, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And setting the pace, most of us will naturally level set to where you are.
Right.
And
We'll
maybe,
match it.
yeah, we will match it. I
Yeah.
know for sure girls will, most
Mhm.
girls will. Boys, and we've talked about this in other conversations, it can be, especially with the father, it can be different because they're looking for something extra, right?
Mhm.
They're looking for some, maybe girls may be more, okay, I want this. I need to feel that hug. But boys may be like, I want the hug, but like there's other things, other pieces that um, fathers have to be willing to be vulnerable around
Yeah.
and really be strong to
Right.
even hear what their sons have to say,
Right.
because it may be
As
a
a
little,
man.
yeah, it may
Yeah.
not be as delicate as some of us women may give it to you,
Yeah.
because we're like, oh, that's our daddy. Boys sometimes are like, dude, like we're we
Trying to get this together. Now, come on. This is what you need to do. This is how you take care of business. Yeah.
and sometimes those that energy with men, between men and their fathers, can be, it can be tough
Yeah.
to get through. But if somebody is willing to be more vulnerable and
Mhm.
really kind of back up, it helps tremendously. And so there is, again, especially in these times, something that Camellia has said over and over and over again. There is something specific that God has put in fathers and mothers that help shape our identity, right?
Yes.
And so while we're trying to learn who we are, don't be so quick to count out, I don't need to know that person's story.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
you really
Yeah. Don't
don't
do that. Yeah.
don't be, and even if that person is unavailable, mentally, emotional, or whatever, leverage someone close to them, or another family member. I know I just learned who my biological father is just 3 weeks ago. He passed away in 2009. But like Camellia said, I'm very intentional and inquisitive about who he was. Hey, I called his sister. Hey, can you share with me what's his personality?
Yeah.
What was he like? Well, what was this like? Or what,
Yeah.
oh, can you share with me pictures? Oh, he was in a band. Oh, well, what did he sing? And
Yeah.
then, I've been asking all kind of questions. They
Yeah.
didn't send me the record. He was a part of a group. Oh, okay. And then that led to somebody else reaching out saying, oh, that was your dad? Oh yeah, he was in that group. My mom used to sing backups for him. So now I got to ask her, oh, well, tell me, what is your experience? Like, she's not a part of the family. So I'm interested because, to your point, it's important. It's important to know what their story was and their journey was. It is very is valuable. I can't say that, oh, my life would have been different had I known that. Like, I can just deal with the now.
Yeah.
So just take the time to do that. And then I'll just say this last thing and say, and it's going to be a tough one for some people. Everybody deserves to know who their dad is and their mom is. And so I'll say it on both ends. If you are out there and you're listening and you have, and you know that if you have questions about who your dad or your mom is or whatever, don't let anybody make you feel bad for wanting to know. Right. So do your research, do your part. I know it's tough sometimes because not everybody's going to be accepting. Even the PIs that I work with, they said, hey, sometimes, Shay, we find parents, mothers and fathers, and we say, hey, your child is looking for you. And they're like, I'm not interested. Right. That's tough. It's tough, but at least you tried. Right. And then you can gather other information. So in different ways. But I won't pretend like it's not tough to not feel rejected again.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that is tough.
Yeah, definitely.
But on the other end, if you are a mother that knows that the father of your children, if you know that you haven't been completely honest about who the father of your children is, whether they're adults or not, it's right that everybody knows who they biologically came from. If you weren't, again, sexually violated or something like that, that's different. But if you know you have just been holding on to something because you're embarrassed or you were ashamed or you had to work with what you had back in the day, your children still deserve to know who they are connected to.
Yeah.
And so you just got to create the space and initiate that conversation. But on the flip side, if you're a child and you've always had questions, and you have the means to reach out and find out what you're connected to, definitely do so. It's scary because a lot of stuff can come on down. It's not easy, but just knowing that it's important. It's important. So thank you so much, Camellia, for taking the time to share your journey, share your story. Can you just tell the lovely people? So you have is it 3 books or 2 books now? 3, 4?
I have 6.
Well, see, I'm all the way off. Come on. I know. I think I have maybe 2 or 3. So,
I have 4 adult books and then 2 children's books.
Okay. So just run through them for us real quick. That from your first through down. Just share.
So the first was Again Promiscuous. No, the first one was What Now. The second one was Again
Hold on. What Now? Tell us a little bit about that.
What Now talks about the time where my first husband died of stomach cancer and what that whole process of healing, how God healed me within writing. It was journaling. It started out to be journaling, but it ended up to be a book, a testimony of God's God's love and his compassion to both sides, to me and my first husband. So it's important that when you're praying for someone that you find out what they want.
Yes.
So God is a God of all of us. So, I was praying for healing. My husband's like, first husband, he was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm ready. So that was called What Now?
What Now?
My second one.
I'm capturing the titles. Okay. Book title 1. What Now?
And the second one is called Again Promiscuous Grace. That was a book of my singleness when I was single, mad, just doing whatever, whenever, just the whole again promiscuous grace. That's what it was. It was a lot of grace. So I wrote about how to be single and live for God. In the end,
you said I got there. It took a second, but I
got there. So that's 2. Okay, the third one was Clash of the Caterpillar and the Butterfly. That talks about the whole faith walk, about sometimes life will cause a collision. So even in the hard times and the dark times, that we have a God that will see us in those dark times and will bring us out into this beautiful butterfly. So we'll have different butterfly seasons in our lives, but that in order to have a butterfly season, you will have a cocoon season. So I talk about that.
Okay, hold on. Make sure I got that clash of the caterpillar
And the butterfly.
And the butterfly. Okay.
Yeah. Life causes a collision.
Yep. I love that, because anything having to do, that whole caterpillar butterfly is metaphor is just next level. Okay.
Yeah.
Book 4.
Yeah. Okay. Book 4 was that's where the 2 children's book come in. It was Super Ladybug. It's about bullying. I wrote that because of what happened to my own baby daughter when she was 3 years old. So bullying at 3 years old, it's pitiful. But I wrote this little children's book, and Sydney, my middle daughter, illustrated it. So both my children's book, the first one is Sally, Super Ladybug, and then the second children's book
You said is Sally?
Sally.
Oh, I didn't even get that part. Hold on, let me make sure I put this. So it's Sally. Okay, Sally, Super Lady. Is it SALLY or
SALLY?
Okay, in that
Super Ladybug.
Super Ladybug. Okay.
And the second one is Sally and the Farmer. That's the second children's book. So both of those books were written by me, but illustrated by Sydney, my middle daughter.
Okay.
So she illustrated the book. So it was a complete family affair.
Okay, tell me that title one more time.
Sally and the Farmer.
Sally and is it and symbol or A-N-D?
A-N-D.
Okay. Okay.
And then my last one is called The Volley. Now that is a book of poetry, actually, and it was a collection of different sayings and conversations that I had with my dad.
Oh, okay. So hold on. Spell you said the
volley, VOLLEY. So volley is like a conversation, like me and you are conversating back and forth.
Okay.
It's just like volleyball, but we're going back and forth.
Okay.
So I call it the volley. So it is it was a lot of different sayings from my dad and my husband's mom, Grandma Lolly. So it was because both of them have passed now. So I wanted to put this collection of different things that they have said throughout the time that I've had with them that have really helped transform my life. I think the first poem in the book, The Volley, is called Pumpkin. And that's what my dad called me. Yes. And I share about different ways of him saying pumpkin to me and how I reverted back to this little girl with this daddy. So imagine, just like on your book, where the cover design, where his dad is holding hand, that's how I felt.
Yes.
So every time he called that to me. So that's called The Volley. So that was the last one I wrote. So.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Yeah. I think I got them all captured. Yeah. I'm sure if you guys go out on Amazon, you guys can check these out. The other piece I put in here is that I mentioned earlier that Camellia has a podcast. Yeah. And also you can tap into her on IG, TikTok, and some previews
Apple
of
podcasts and iHeartRadio. Yep.
Yes. So y'all check it out. Definitely an array of conversations, conversational topics there. And I'm just grateful. I can tell you she is definitely a gem, very authentic, unapologetically her. So I think that's
no one, girl. That's why we get about Mish.
Let me tell you, when I tell you, I think I may have shared this quote before, but it's one of my favorite quotes. It says, when you have more people around you that care about your character or just character, when you have more people around you that care about character rather than comfort, you're rich indeed. I'm grateful that I have people around me, and I'm attracted to lights that have character and have courage. They demonstrate compassion. They demonstrate course correction unapologetically. And so that's
like, girl, you wrong.
Yeah, you're out of order. Now, when you get back on track, Come back here, Shay. Where do you think you going?
Yeah, you're right. No, that ain't you. That ain't you. Come on back here.
And so that is what I value, and I'm so grateful that God continues to allow me to stay connected with beautiful souls like yourself. So thank you so much. I'm grateful. Hey, FYI, November, is it the 1st? Hold on, let me go ahead and plug this real quick if I can get my calendar down right here.
Oh, for me and my boyfriend.
Yes, November the 5th. The first episode of Intentional Dads in November is going to be Camellia with her boyfriend. So you'll get to see him. And the highlight there is we're really going to be talking about the co-parent partnership. And she mentioned that earlier. They have 3 beautiful girls, and they have all unique experiences, right? From Ashley being the first by your first husband, to Sydney having her own experience with her mom and her dad, and then Charity, who has her own experience with having both of you. So, and all of them, of course, having both of you now, but the definitely, it's going to be an amazing conversation. I believe a really good insight. So I'm excited. Yes.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Shay. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. And I love you. And we will talk to y'all later.
All right. Love you too. Bye. Thank you.